What's going on, everybody? Grab your lattes, grab your mochas, whatever the hell you call it. Settle on in. This is the awesome coffee shop. It's your boy, your host for today, Jobbers and Goons. You can check out my main channel. Same name as I just announced myself as, of course. And today is another Star Wars video. I'm actually planning on trying to upload 3 here to the coffee shop today, with this video being Shaak explained in a breakdown of how she scales and what she brings to the table. Next, I want to conclude the 2 amazing Jedi Master battles that I'm doing, and that is Shaak versus Kit Fisto. That will hopefully conclude today. And finally, for a third video, I would like to get up today Lucifer from DC versus Noel from Marvel. My buddy Captain Force, I believe, already did this video. And while we don't always agree on our scaling, he's an awesome dude, makes awesome content. So definitely go check his version out as well and support mine. But without further ado, we are going to discuss the legendary Jedi Master Shaak. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's begin. So, Shaak. This is a character I've had a funny past with in my Star Wars scaling days. I found myself sometimes being biased against her, only because her fan base was rabid. And they would say wild stuff like she was as good at Makashi as Dooku, which is a quote that was taken out of context and not really applied fairly when you compare it to the rest of the quote, which we'll get into later. However, having reread and restudied the Force Unleashed material recently for my upcoming Galen Merrick versus Anakin Skywalker battle, which will be animated, by the way, I realized, man, like, Shaak, especially in the Force Unleashed, was a monster in a lot of ways. So the Togrutan female became most famous as a Jedi Master serving during the Clone Wars era. Having sit on the Jedi Council, Shaak was famous for becoming a illustrious Jedi general during the war, and was nearly killed in the Order 66 tragedy that occurred, where all the Jedi were sentenced to death by the Emperor, and barely escaping the temple, in which, and of course, by the way, for everybody that knows, we're doing Legends material for both Kit and Shaak. Shaak died like 37 times in canon. It's ridiculous. But we're obviously going with Legends here. Just want to clarify that. But anyways, Shaak escaped the legend when newly christened Lord Vader pulled up with his troop company. And after she escaped, she took refuge on Felucia, where she would actually grow, in my opinion, a lot more powerful, because she was exposed to a dark side nexus of a planet that essentially would fully collapse to the dark side if she was not there. She served as a beacon of light. Eventually, Darth Vader sent his assassin in training, Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller, to assassinate the esteemed Jedi Master in hiding. After he pulled up on her on this planet, Starkiller and Shaak engaged. Of course, Shaak wasn't looking for conflict. It just happened upon her. And this was a great duel in which Shaak actually held the advantage most of the time. But due to circumstances, with that being, Galen Merrick is a force with raw power even before his prime. Shaak met her end at the hands of Starkiller that day, passing away as one of the most decorated and celebrated Jedi of her time. So, with her origins and explanation out the way, what does Shaak bring to the table in terms of scaling? So, let's talk about physicality. The Togrutan female, Shaak was just as physically capable as about any other Jedi of her time. In terms of speed, she was fast enough to keep up with an entire troop of Magna Guards and even take down several of them. She was able to momentarily keep up with Grievous. She's also kept up with General Grievous while she was tired herself. She's able to spar with other members of the council, including the likes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And she's fast enough to tag Galen Merrick multiple times, hurt him, and kind of control the duel for the most part. In terms of strength, obviously she can go toe-to-toe with characters like Galen Merrick. She's strong enough to take on Magna Guards, knock them back, get into blade locks with Grievous. She even, with Too Tremendous while tired, was able to hold off Grievous, which takes tremendous strength. However, strength isn't really her calling card. She's more of a speed and dexterity fighter, as obvious by the fact that characters like Nightfall Vader will kind of walk through her. He's just too strong. In my opinion, that's likely what the case would have been. Her stamina shouldn't be in question. In fact, on Felucia, she's basically constantly fighting the dark side nexus and remaining a beacon of light, to the point that it's almost considered like a space-time rupture. That's the distortion of power occurring there constantly because of her. And overall, like physically, Shaak Ti was no one to shy at for the Jedi. Now, moving on to her skills in martial arts and with the blade, this is where it gets interesting, and I think this is my favorite part, breaking down Star Wars combatants, is their blade work, martial skills, all that. I love it. So let's get into it. She has a very prestigious background as a duelist. Luckily, Shaak Ti grew up in one of the greatest eras of duelists ever. By the way, I will be working on a project where I rank the eras based on their duelists, both quality and quantity. Should be an absolute banger. Run up the likes for that. But getting back to this, Shaak Ti was most well known for her mastery of Makashi Form 2, which is a specialization form in one-on-one lightsaber combat, similar to a fencing style. And she was not Dooku level. Some people like to say she held parity. That's not true. So in the novel quote that brought her name up, in terms of like gracefulness, Count Dooku and a Shaak Ti, Depa Billaba was listed with Mace Windu. You'd have to argue she's like Mace's equal, Depa, and that Shaak was Dooku's equal. You see what I mean? Like, you got to be consistent there. It's a little weird. Probably wouldn't do that. But however, despite not scaling the Dooku, that's not an anti-feat because Dooku is an absolute monster with Makashi. So she was very prestigious and was able to use it very effectively against Magna Guards and characters like Galen Merrick Pre-Prime. She also has other clear masteries of other forms like a Taru. She's very acrobatic in the way she moves around. And I do believe she blended these two styles beautifully in a way because she has a lot of dexterity attributes that favor her. So I do believe that speed style, which would be something like an Ataru, is very good for her to blend with something like Makashi, which is a technical form, but it's also one built on grace, dexterity, and form. And so with her quickness and agility, she can get out of situations where strength doesn't favor her. But with Makashi, she can pick people apart from a technical standpoint because of her speed. And basically, if they're not top tier as duelists, she's going to be just fine. And she has a very well-balanced style. I'd also say, in my opinion, just like personally observing all her fights and Legends and shit, I think she has a pretty good case for Naman specialization as well, because her ability to use the Force while dueling is prestigious. I don't think enough people give her credit for that. She's an absolute menace combining the two. But yeah, for lightsaber skill, she was indeed one of the best on the council. Martial arts, she was able to go toe-to-toe with thugs, Magna Guards, other Jedi. She has the basic training of Jedi hand-to-hand combat, and we know even with the basics, combined with their lightsaber forms as well as what the forms entail in terms of skill practice, most Jedi can hang with high-tier martial artists like Mandalorians, especially in the Jedi Master range, because we know like Kenobi could do it as a knight. So there's no doubt that Shaak Ti is a very prestigious martial artist. Now, in terms of intelligence in a fight, she's very high IQ. I mean, first of all, she got away from Nightfall Vader and the entirety of his troop, which is very impressive. She's Obi-Wan Kenobi straight up said she was the most cunning Jedi he's ever been around, which is a hell of a compliment from him. He's served with everybody. And she was considered one of the best tacticians of the era, which was full of Jedi generals. So definitely hats off to her. She has to get her credit as a high-tier, high-IQ fighter, as well as she displayed it against pre-prime Galen Merrick when she was bullying him and tactically dominating the battlefield and willing the battlefield to favor her. Like I said, she just got caught in the end. Moving on to the Force, this is very important. Obviously, she has very good telepathy and Force sensitivity. Most Togrutans are this way based on their biology. Fun fact. She also is a hell of a telekinetic. She's able to push around all things on Felucia, which includes beings like Rancors and monsters even bigger than that. She's also able to, Force-wise, hold her own against Galen Merrick and even scared him at some points. She is a beast, an absolute beast with alter environment and environmental control. She literally is fighting against the planet at all times and bending it to her will and commanding the wildlife. If you face off with her on a neutral battlefield, chances are Shaak Ti can actually almost instantly shift that battlefield to her favor because of what she can do in the environment. And she's even potent with this ability against negative forces like the dark side. So I think that's very important to bring up, how she can shift the battlefield to her favor, altering the terrain, you know, dropping trees, summoning vines, all this shit. If there's any wildlife, she could easily mentally dominate it, obviously. And in terms of Force augmentation, she can boost her durability, stamina, and speed to keep up with characters like Grievous and even tank hits from them after she's dead tired. Overall, I think her best Force abilities will be the way she can change the environment, and her raw power I do think is undersold, and I do believe she also has pretty good precog as well. So I do think her cunning mixed with her Force abilities makes her one of the most slept on Force-using Jedi of her time. I really do think her versatility was great for her time. Now, to kind of wrap this up, just how strong was Shaak Ti? Shaak Ti is one of the greatest Jedi of her era. One of the most cunning Jedi generals to ever perform on the battlefield. She survived multiple occasions to the point it almost became a meme. Well, yes, I do think some overrate her talent with the blade. Like I said, they said she was Dooku's equal and Makashi and shit like that. She is very talented with the blade and very dangerous, and did outduel pre-prime Galen Merrick, who is very skilled himself. And it was stated in the accompanying works to the game that she was his superior. He just caught her. So, with that in mind, very good duelist. Force powers are undersold in my opinion. Even from her fan base, I don't think they rep her Force abilities as much as she could. I mean, she was literally called a disruption to space-time at one point with how powerful she was on Felucia. Definitely think she's a monster with the Force, and perhaps her best attribute, she's incredibly intelligent and incredibly cunning, and Obi-Wan considered her the most cunning Jedi of their time, which is a very good accolade. So overall, Shaak Ti is a beast, and you will see her featured in an upcoming battle versus another cerebral Jedi master of the same era, Kit Fisto. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of Shaak Ti, what you think of her scaling down below, and her story. And anyways, thank you so much for watching. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons. This is The Coffee Shop, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.